I have the Invictus for a little bit longer. The Heibel Invictus is a knife that has been on loan to me, and I haven't been flipping it nearly as much lately just because I've been having wrist issues, but for the sake of doing a Balisong breakdown, let me tell you more about the Heibel Invictus. It's 4.44 ounces, which is like kind of medium weight. I feel like I remember it being a little bit more. You can find out more on Heibel's website, which actually has a lot of. It's a little messy to look at sometimes, but it has all the information you need about every knife, past and present, of its makes, which also include the Heibel Valor. Ouch, that was the bite side. Um, Now, what can I say about the Invictus? The Invictus is a channel titanium balisong on tang pins, and Will Hirsch says it's like his favorite knife right now. It says RWL34. I honestly don't know much about blade steels at all, so I can't really tell you much about that. Um, and it's got these handles that have some pretty interesting milling. This part up here, it's actually pretty comfortable. Um, I like this like texture up here because it gives grip. Over here it gives more grip, but I don't necessarily always like love cutouts like these. And then you have like these concentric circles, not concentric. You just have like these, what is it, like 6 circles, and it's like kind of simple looking, but at the same time it's also distinct and provides grip. And there's jimping, um, which is helpful because it is a bit hefty, though it is titanium, so you don't have to worry about the aluminum slipperiness. And it has a pretty nice blade. You can see the machine lines on the blade and this kind of like recurve. Um, I feel like the Heibel Invictus is a knife that is just like a really good all-arounder. Um, there's nothing about the knife that I find particularly wild in a sense. There's nothing particularly insane or crazy. It's a bit heavier, just like a bit, like 4.4, like 4.5 ish ounces. Um, but it's got incredibly good tolerances, like really, really good tolerances. And this is a used knife too. This is not new. Um, and I find just that it kind of does everything that you want it to. Like I'm gonna give a parabolic a shot. Whoops! I just knocked my phone off. I'm gonna give this parabolic a shot. Well, that was bad, but I feel like I've done. There we go. Oh, that was a. I feel like I've done successful parabolics before. Don't. There we go. Um, I'm not amazing at parabolics, but like it just kind of doesn't really give issue. It's a little handle bias, um, which means that it does rollovers really well. It fans oh so slightly handle bias in a sense. Like it fans without too much wobble, but it feels very good when you fan it. Um, it's a little hefty, so twirls are a bit spooky. But again, because of how well balanced this whole knife is, there aren't really any hot spots in terms of the weight distribution. This blade isn't particularly insane with its shape in terms of the balance. And the handles don't really have a ton of hot spots either. Because this milling, it comes all the way out to this point. So there's not even necessarily a ton of like ass weight, but it feels good. It feels really good. It doesn't need extra ass weight at all. And I just find that the Invictus is an absolutely rock solid knife. In terms of like just really standard solid flipping experiences, I haven't tried the Slift T. I hear that that's a really good standard flipping experience, and the Slight as well. Albeit the Slight is like much smaller. Like the Slight is a small knife, and a very lightweight one. This is a really solid standard flipping experience for a titanium channel knife that is on the slightly heavier side. Um, I have not flipped a Sapient or a proper Menace, but I will say that like comparing these two knives, the the Valor and the Invictus. The Valor is actually heavier, but like a little smaller in terms of its design, and it's got this gorgeous scimitar blade. And the grip is really nice. However, because it's like 5 ounces and on cage ceramic bearings, it's like not the most popular knife ever. There's also like not a lot of these. I've not actually seen any for sale besides this one that I got. And the grip is really nice. I find the Invictus to be a lot more in line with what the flipping community desires in general. It's got bushings, and it's got, it's channel titanium, and I don't know. It looks good. It flips good. And if you are lucky enough to get like a full dressed Invictus, I believe that they're not that much more expensive than that baseline Invictus. And so honestly, if I could get my hands on like a really nice special Invictus for a price that is not that much more than a standard Invictus, I'd probably go for it. That said, it's still a decent amount of money. About $650, I think, which is in line with like haystack knives, and Machine Wise knives, but certainly cheaper than anything that like JK makes. And so like I always, it's a pretty penny. 650 bucks is it's nothing to scoff at. That's a pretty penny. But when compared to like the Orca, is the Orca that much better? Honestly, I flipped the Orca like a little bit. I'm like, yeah, it's nice, but like I wish it was 600 bucks and not 1,000. And I love the Zizix, but it's machined by JK, so it's a lot of money. I believe Heibel is a machinist himself, and he does a lot of custom knives, and I've seen him put some custom knives on sale. As for the customs, I can't really talk about their flipping, obviously, because each one is different. And he's done knives that are Tang pins and Zen pins and bushings and bearings. He's kind of done it all. And so, besides his bizarre Menace trainer, the aluminum Menace trainer that is the most blade bias thing that I've ever flipped, I feel like he's got really, really solid, incredible products that are fairly fair in its pricing. It's with the material quality of materials and the really solid tolerances and just the solid build of it all. I don't think it's unreasonable that he's charging as much as he is, like the 650 range. Like, I think that's very fair and reasonable for like the product that you're getting out of it. And yeah, I think that you can't go wrong with the Invictus. If you prefer lighter knives like I do, I still find that the Invictus is like doesn't give me any issue with flipping. It just feels pretty comfortable. Like chaplains don't feel uncomfortable at all. Like chaplains feel fine. Aerials feel fine. And rollovers feel particularly good. If you like rollovers, the Invictus is a knife that you cannot go wrong with at all. And even fans, like I'm someone that I find myself just kind of like, sometimes I'm like lying in bed and I'm just like doing things, and if I need to move my wrist a lot, I can't really do that. And sometimes rollovers require you to like kind of lift up your elbow, and I'm like lying in bed and I'm lazing about. But I find that this is a knife that you can be very comfortable flipping. So, the Invictus, you can't go wrong with it. As I've said before in my unboxing video, it is not a knife that has blown me away in the sense that, like, when I touched it, I felt like heaven and earth moved. I felt like my experience with flipping has drastically changed. I know that Will Hirsch said that when he picked this up, he fell in love with it immediately and just bought it on the spot, and wasn't even planning on buying anything at Blade Show. And I'm not to say anything about Will's experience to like demerit it. I think he's totally right in that this is a really good product. I don't think that it like I would have bought it on the spot, but I would be like, this is a good knife. And, you know, if I could get like a full dress Invictus for like not that, like, you know, like if I could get a full dress Invictus for like 600 to 700 bucks, maybe I would swing for it. I think his is maybe like full dress. And I've seen Kumio has like this gorgeous full, there's like this full dress Invictus has just, that was like sold and sold and sold. And now it's like sitting with someone and I think she's holding on to it. So I think that this is a good knife. I think this is actually a great knife. Um, and so if you want a solid flipping experience and you want like a standard flipping experience, I would say this is basically that. Um, maybe, you know, like I would say like, you know, like probably the most standard flipping experience that we kind of have as our benchmark is the Kraken. And it's like point 0.3 ounces heavier. So it's heavier, but it's also titanium. And I know that a lot of flipping tendencies have started to go towards lighter knives to 4 and under 4 ounces. And I love knives that are under 4 ounces, but not everyone does. But also not everyone wants a fucking Alpha Beast because those fucking things are so goddamn heavy and uncomfortable to flip. So I think this is like a really great kind of like mostly middle of the road. And yeah, I think a collector, you know, I would not mind having one of these in my collection. I'm not going to actively try and spend a buttload of money on one because holy shit, money. I need money. Speaking of which, check out the coffee in my description. Would help a long way. Just a couple of bucks, you know, helps keep the channel alive. But anyways, this has been on loan. I have temp traded my Serif for it. And I think the Serif is one of my favorite knives ever. But it's also less standard because of how long and sort of light it is. It's like, I think it's under 4 ounces, actually. Not 100% sure on that. I'll have to double check that. Whereas this one I think is more in line with like a standard flipping experience, both in its size. Like it's a little, like the handles are a little long. No, actually the handles are normal. The blade's a little long. But it is a knife that I think is not particularly wild in its proportions or its specs. I don't know. I feel like all I have to really say is knife really good, really standard experience. Collectors probably enjoy it, and people who just want, like, if you wanted one knife and you wanted one good fucking solid flipping knife and you want it to be nicer than like a Kraken, but not $1,000 nice. Honestly, like, I feel like if you were the person to be like, I've been flipping, I've got experience, and I'm going to sell all of my knives and just have one knife for the rest of my life, I think this could be that knife. I wouldn't be for me, but it could be for you. And I think that's, I think, you know, you want that really solid standard flipping experience, and you only wanted one knife. This could be that knife. And even, you know, if you want more than one knife, this could still very much be a knife that you want to have, and it does fantastic in my opinion. I've never had any gripes. I've never had any real issues. And if I ever did struggle with something, it's more of a me thing. And like maybe you want slightly more neutral. Even if you do like slightly more neutral, this still does feel really good. If you want a lighter knife, maybe this isn't necessarily for you, but I cannot say anything particularly negative about this. I think this knife performs fantastically. Sorry, there's like weird crap. This knife performs fantastically. So yeah, great job, Heibel. Um, Totally could very well be worth scooping one. I wouldn't necessarily trade away all of my knives to get one, but I'm very, very happy to have tried this. And maybe one day I will own one. Maybe one day. But we'll see. I've seen some float around like 500 even. Um, but even then, it's like there's still not very often an Invictus that goes that low. Like 500 I've seen before, but that's still a pretty penny. And I think these kind of maintain their tolerance as well. If you wanted to beat this, you probably could. It seems very fucking durable. It's pretty tanky. But also it's, I don't know. I know someone who beats their Tsunami, and I'm just like, why? It's a $700 knife. Anyways, if you like these videos, check out my other videos. I have a video on the Heibel Menace. I keep flipping that on the bike side. What am I doing? Definitely different. There are some similarities, but they're different knives for sure. So check out my other videos, like and comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the Invictus. How do you feel the Sapient compares and the Menace compares if you flip those? Do you feel like I'm talking out of my ass? Do you feel like this is maybe not the most standard flipping experience, or there is something that like you think is like standard and can compete with this? Because like I like the haystack knives, but I find that the DMC and the Carlo are not standard. They're kind of different. Like the DMC is lighter, the grip isn't as comfortable, and it rings like crazy. And the Carlo is very long. And I also find that, like, again, I love the Seraph. I love the Seraph. But it's also a very long and light Balisong. So, not necessarily standard either. But let me know if you think that there's something else that kind of competes with this in terms of the standard flipping experience that, like, matches this quality. And maybe the price point. I don't know. Anyways, happy flipping. Take care, and see you next time.